Big news update today, guys. There are several big campaigns going on right now, multi-million-dollar campaigns going on right now. One of them I haven't even covered yet. There are several games launching today. All those are linked down in the description below, of course. All right, we're going to start on a positive note. Now let's look at some games that are just now launching. DreamEscape. I covered this a while back, actually, but it is here and finally 11 hours at the time of posting, so it'll be very soon after I post this. Again, everything's linked down in the description below. Feel free to check it all out. This is going to be a big one, actually. I think this is pretty cool. Cthulhu's obviously popular. As you can see, almost 10,000 people are following this. It looks like a very chunky, like meaty game, and I think a lot of the Cthulhu games really work on that kind of puzzle aspect. And I feel that kind of feeling from this game as well. There's a ton of lore and text and items to get and abilities to uncover, and you're like going through like lucid dreaming and all sorts of other stuff. It says over 7,000 possible story encounter outcomes. I think it says 8,000 in the video. Either way, it's a lot. Over 7,000, close to 8,000-ish. Obviously there's very minor details to all of that, but yeah, a ton of stuff. Role play like choices drive the story forwards. It's very much doing this like immersive solo or shared experience where you or a group of people are busy like moving your attributes and gaining items and solving puzzles and applying these different resources and getting tokens and all this kind of stuff. Again, very similar to a lot of Cthulhu style games in concept, right? But I think the implementation of this is a little bit meatier, a little bit chunkier of a board game experience. So if you're a Euro gamer, I think you're going to actually really like this one. If you're a Mayor of the Trash, you might still like it because they have these elder runes. It's kind of like dice. You drop them and obviously they land in certain ways, and that's kind of like the little bit of randomness there, right? You see this risk reward thing there because the more you use them, they're really good, but the more Cthulhu like notices you, and you're obviously trying to do stuff without him noticing you. So he like starts blocking some of your abilities and stuff. Anyway, there's a lot here. You can go over it actually in the video. Highly recommended. Not all videos are good. This video that they have linked way up here, right here, actually pretty good. It'll tell you a little bit more about the game. So feel free to check that out. Again, that's launching today, and you get a free gift if you follow. So you get those cards there, prelude cards. Very cool. All right, next up we have Dice Throne X-Men Marvel Mission Co-op Deadpool. It's listing at the end there kind of some of the new stuff, right? So they had the Marvel Dice Throne, right? But now they have like the Marvel Dice Throne missions. And then they have, of course, the X-Men and Deadpool. And it's obviously doing very well. 2.5 million, so 13 days ago, 11,400 backers. I think this combination is important. Again, it's not just money, because games can just be really expensive, and some of this stuff is. I'm going to be talking about that. But the amount of backers, especially on a repeated campaign like Dice Throne, like even Marvel Dice Throne, where the IP is the same, very key, I think, to note on how many people actually like that. I think that's very important. So always worth checking that. And yeah, I mean, they're doing very well, obviously. I still have the issue, sadly, because I love Marvel, I love X-Men. I played Marvel Heroes, if you know what that game used to be. Obviously, it's not around anymore. I had well over 300, almost 400 hours in that, and that was just what Steam tracked. I even played it on console a little bit when that came out. I'm a big fan. I love the stuff, and I don't like the art that Dice Throne has, and that's just kind of in general. Nonetheless, in the Marvel series, but the Marvel series in particular, because I'm highly interested in it, it is kind of a bummer, and it kind of does hold me back a little bit. Like that, to me personally, one of the worst rogue faces and even like hair I've seen. To me, it's hard to mess up Rogue and Gambit and stuff like that. But and then like I don't even know what's going on with Cyclops. It sucks. That's one of my favorite versions of Storm, obviously, and they have some really good classic characters, and really like I love the coloration of Wolverine, but I don't know, the style is just not my preference. There's some really cool upgrades here, though. So let's go on, because I see those acrylic tokens, so I want to talk about it. So what's going on with this? Well, obviously you get pre-colored figurines, I think is what they call them. They're little minis. They're not super large, but pretty good. You can see them compared to like cards, for instance, there. So that's really nice. You pick a mission, and there's a whole bunch of these different missions, and then you set up in seconds. It'll be more than a few seconds, I think. Depends. I mean, technically, all of life could be measured in seconds, but I'm down. It's going to take you a lifetime to set up. It'll set up quick. That's what they're saying there, of course. And then, of course, you can actually team up and co-op against like these big bad guys or whatever. So you get to fight these bosses and all that's kind of cool. And you get to gain more allies. So, I mean, they show this really well. And then how to play right there. Like, it's very well laid out in the video. Again, a good video. I gotta comment on that. Like, this is well done, I feel. They really watch some playthroughs. You can link through there, and then they show up some of the new stuff like Deadpool, of course. I noticed he's overcoming his area a bit more and covering up more of the cards and stuff like that, breaking that fourth wall, right? So people who are fans of Deadpool, I'm not a huge fan of him, but either way, if you love tacos or chimichangas or Deadpool, you're gonna love that, I'm sure. So anyway, you can see some of the markings here. $60 for the Marvel Dice Throne. That says $14. You're going to pay more than $14 in shipping probably, so it doesn't actually save you any money. The save money aspect that a lot of Kickstarters used to do, I think, have fallen out the wayside nowadays. It honestly is cheaper to buy these at retail. Retail will have sales, and you're supporting typically a local gaming spot, like you're for a local gaming store, which is awesome. I highly actually encourage you guys, if you're just getting the game and are not interested in like a collector's edition style thing, or there's not a massive savings, support your local game store. It's what I've actually been doing even with Kickstarters, because often they can order a Kickstarter too. But yeah, that's not a huge savings there, but there's a little bit there. When you get bundles, I think it's a little bit better. And then of course they include some of the like, hey, here's how this character plays different. Again, I love the focus on gameplay. You can tell there's a real game here, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so scrolling down past all these guys, there's 9 of them, by the way. Very, very nice. You'll notice Deadpool, I believe, is only in the premium edition and of expansions. What I mean by that is you get acrylic tokens and stuff. So if you're just getting the Deadpool expansion, don't suggest it, because it'll look different than your retail version of the game, if that makes sense. Sometimes this happens with special components and stuff, but I think this is going to be one of them. And it'll probably be available in retail, I imagine. I don't think it's a Kickstarter exclusive or anything. Unique dice, I love that. That's a great include. Again, they've done a great job on this. All these different monsters you can fight, you know, now that you're kind of working together to a trifold mission maps and stuff like that. And they look really fun. The art style on these, I like actually a lot more. I think these are great. And some characters I like too. It's not all of them, but like Iron Man there looks fine. It's okay. These minis, they look okay. Don't expect anything like Street Fighter. There's not that many operations. I don't see any like washes, for instance, or anything like that. So it's just like base coat. So like I think Storm's there looking a little dark, at least with the contrast. But then I think Wolverine's looking like really white, right? So I don't think the skin tones are very good on really any of them, right? Gambit and Rogue, same thing there. I guess Iceman looks okay. But these special effects will be clear and stuff like that. They'll look nice, and they're all dynamic, and they look good. I think it's actually really cool. Again, a little cartoony. Like I think, for instance, Black Widow here specifically, it looks very cartoony to me. But and not like comic booky. I mean like cartoony. If that makes sense. Like a animated Spider-Man show. Anyway, yeah, you can see some of the stuff here. $40, $40, $55 there. And of course, then you can upgrade stuff like the acrylic tokens. So that's what this is. These are the fancy, nice little acrylic tokens. That's really expensive, I think, for acrylic tokens, considering that I don't think there's like the quantities there, but the amount of different tokens, I don't know. I'm not quite sold on to make it where all the acrylic tokens costs like almost $150. That seems like a lot. That doesn't seem. I'm not buying the value there. Though they are cool. And then again, say $5. You're spending more money buying it here. I'm not saying you shouldn't, because then you're supporting Dice Throne as opposed to your friendly gaming store. And sometimes you want to support just the dev, and obviously giving them that. But yeah, if it's $5 to you, they're selling it for way less to the retail store. So they're charging you a premium as a backer, which is kind of a bummer. Same with the premium card sleeves. This is probably a little bit more worth it because again of the custom art and all that. It's really convenient too. It's not just a nice upgrade. It actually like looks nice and protects your game a little bit. Then they have a whole bunch of other doodads. This is probably the biggest one. So this is $20 per, again, kind of at a higher price for knee mats. Knee mats are not actually terribly expensive. So there's a good profit margin on that for sure. It says ultra thick 3mm. that's thick, but it's fairly standard for neoprene mats. You can get really skinny ones, but that's almost the exception. Normally they're like mouse pad thickness, right? And you know, like this stuff, right? So that looks really ugly on that camera. I'm sorry you had to see that, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's that material, right? It doesn't look like it's stitched. It looks like it's a black stitch. So the stitch, I'm not sure, is actually printed, which actually lowers the quality a little bit. The style of the design and art all look great. $20 each. There are 20 of them. You can spend $400 on neoprene mats. That's why I look at 2.5 million, but also 11,000, because it could be few backers that are just spending a ton of money, right? And I'm sure there are some that are just buying every single one, and they'll do that, and it's their money to spend however they wish. But either way, gameplay wise, from my understanding, this is a great addition to the game, of a well-beloved game that's tried and true that lots of people enjoy. So if you like the IP, if you like this style of game, and you don't want to just get the retail stuff, you want this new kind of pizzazz stuff, then by all means go for it. And you'll see here now actually on like what you can back, right? So again, I wouldn't suggest getting stuff like this. Really what you're going to want to get is this. That way you're saving $53. By the time you pay for shipping, maybe you're saving $3. Who knows? It's, you know, it depends on how much they charge for shipping. As you can see though, a ton of people going for that. $6,299, $169. A little pricey, but you get a lot of game there. Like I said, there are 9 heroes in this new edition, and that's actually really cool. And then of course all the bosses and stuff like that. Marvel gameplay bundle, where you actually get to the kind of the base thing too. That one you're saving $81, $259. Again, fairly pricey, but a pretty good savings there. A lot of people here in all the news. This is everything new. So you get all these like fancy like minis and stuff like that, right? The little neoprene trays that snap together and stuff. $449. So again, you can spend quite a bit here. And the Marvel all-in at $600. So again, very pricey, but they're doing a lot of good stuff too. Like this, for instance, the balance kit. So they're actually trying to make sure that everybody still stays balanced. So they actually put a debuff on Thor and a buff on Miles Morales. And I think that's super cool to see, actually. And not only can you download it, but they are going to include a printed version of this in your copy as well. So you get that constant update, which is cool. Anyway. Enough of that. I know I spent a long time on that, but yeah, it said it'll come out around August of 2024. My understanding is they actually fit that pretty close. They're actually pretty good on delivering their stuff. Some of their stuff they deliver actually pretty quick, like I know the winter one they were working on. Next up, we have Legends of Signum 2 Warseer Fantasy Hexagonal War Game. 26,000 raised, 131 backers, 5 days still to go. Signum, Legends of Signum has always been kind of like a low-key board game maker. Most of their stuff is like just miniatures and Patreon. They do very good in that space. But they made a second version of the Legends of Signum, which I think a lot of people might actually enjoy. It is kind of pricey though. It's definitely war gamer priced. And what I mean by that is the starter box here has 12 high-quality resin miniatures, $125. I know it has a whole bunch of other stuff, but people typically just count the minis. And if you're not used to buying resin minis, that sounds super expensive. If you are, that's actually not too bad. And that's the normal price. There was a pretty good early bird, as you can see. So the starter box was $99 for the early bird. So a $25 difference early bird. And that can often sour people's opinion of the game afterwards, where it seems like, you know, maybe that's not quite as good of a deal now, right? It's not just a little, it's not $5 off, it's $25 cheaper. Or alternatively, you're paying $25 more for it than the people who got here first. So, you know, that is kind of a bummer. And often I see games campaigns don't grow as much. They might get a good solid start, but then they definitely hit a roadblock here. I like the focus on this. They're focusing on, hey, guess what? Like, we know what we're doing. I think that's super important in today's day and age. Unless you're well known like Dice Throne, you definitely need to come in there with like some confidence boost. I think that's really important. Anyway, they talk about their minis and the different factions and the hexes and what that allows for you to do and stuff like that. And they have some really cool designs of some of the minis. I really like these like short people, not them. Like, come on, like these people here. I think they're kind of cool. Look at his face there. Look at his buck teeth. That'd be cool to paint actually as well. But I'm sure they're very high quality. Yeah, I think that's kind of limiting it a little bit. Next up, we have Dracula's Curse, a bloodthirsty board game. 24,000 raised, 296 backers. Sorry, 306 backers, 27 days to go. It's fairly new on here. It looks like it's actually getting some love. It keeps going up. I love seeing that. That's awesome. Anyway, almost 26,000 back now. This one looks kind of cool. It gives me a Castlevania vibe that I really, really appreciate. It's a 1 versus mini game where up to 6 people can play. And essentially you have a whole bunch of people playing co-op, but you might turn against your friends and become vampires, which also sounds really cool. And then you're working with Dracula and one person playing Dracula and actually like putting, essentially like you're controlling the area that they're in, the little map that they're unlocking, and you're spawning monsters in there and buffing them and gaining abilities and eventually trying to resurrect as Dracula and then fight them like that. They talk about existing character relationships and like there's a synergy system, right? Where they get to kind of like, if you play like the husband-wife kind of team, you get to work together that way, or maybe they're brother or sister. I don't know. I don't want to assume too much, but you get what I'm saying. Like they have some cool stuff here. This spot here slots in the subclass system that they have, which is cool. And there are vampire subclasses you get to unlock if you die and turn into a vampire and actually then go attack your former teammates. I think that's super cool. Lots of different like relics and items from Dracula's collection and stuff like that. It looks like it's mostly all card based. You get curse cards, vampire quest cards. So when you turn into a vampire, you gain a specific quest as a vampire for you to kind of complete. So you might be acting differently than another person that turns later on and stuff. It just looks like a lot of fun. I love it. I think, you know, the Dracula card is cloak shaped and stuff. Which is kind of neat. And the world kind of runs like Castlevania. There's also a Cthulhu expansion that essentially makes that now into 20 different underground, you know, deep underground Cthulhu area there, which is pretty cool, and all the monsters that come with that. I think it actually looks pretty neat. I dig it. I love games like this. For some reason, I'm drawn to these more indie things that seem to be doing something new or different to me. And I just recently did the the one with the candle that moves around. I can't think of the name right now, so I'm not going to delay the video to try and think of that. But it has a similar kind of like, you know, these little, you're drawing these little squares that build out the map. I'm on a kick for that. I think it's awesome, but it looks pretty cool to me. I dig it. And it's actually not too bad. Kickstarter edition $69. If you want to get the Cthulhu expansion at $75, and then if you want to, though, again, this isn't like the one to necessarily do. It's $89 for the Kickstarter special, which it's all right. But I think these bigger ones aren't necessarily as well. So they have the collector's edition expansion, comes with like a poster. Then you have like the founder's pledge, which comes with like multiple posters and stuff. There is a exclusive mini expansion. The mini is a mini expansion size, not miniatures. So just as a clarification on that, really, I would suggest people go mostly for the 89. I'm sorry, the 75, I think looks really good to me. They don't do a good job explaining what the other expansions hold or what they look like. And so that's kind of limiting my ability to recommend anything higher. And additionally, they do have this weird thing where they have like these fake reviews from like Frankenstein and Cleopatra and King Arthur stuff. It's cute and all, but producing at least a prototype to get it out there to somebody would have, I think, been a little bit helpful. They say they're working with Panda, and that's good, and you know, it looks like they know what they're doing here. But again, building that confidence, super important, especially for first time company like Retro Plus Games. So definitely worth just doing your research in that, of course, but I think this is probably a highlight for me. Next up, we have The Witcher Path of Destiny. Again, over 2 million, doing very well. 24,500 backers. This has raised 2 million, but on a much, as you can see, way more people backing at a much lower price. I am surprised there is still not an expansion yet. I'm expecting an expansion. I'm expecting it gets more than that. Right now, as you can see, I've backed at the 80. It's $85 for the ones with minis. They've done a ton of stretch goals and added new tails and stuff like that. But there's not really anything to buy here, which is just crazy that they're not, you know, charging more. They're still trying to unlock this. They've kind of been growing to that, and it's still working. 200,000 left. They did unlock stuff like a coin, which is great to see. Everybody loves their coins. Now you can play as a dwarf. Fantastic. That's great, of course. They have, you know, just premium upgrades, new tales to go through, so there's more gameplay now. Again, new characters and all their upgrades and stuff. They're also doing some cool, like, votes and upgrades and stuff like that. Like, if I click on not your pledge, updates. For instance, Dandelion, they have an alternate sculpt you can vote for. So right now this one is actually winning, so it might change to this one versus the handout kind of one that they have. So I like that he has his leg on something here. I think that's really good. I like that his head is faced more up, so you actually see that versus when you're looking down, you just kind of see his hand and his head. This is a cool pose looking at it this way, but you typically look at the minis that way, in which case I think this is actually a better one, my opinion. But, you know, vote for what you want. Next up, we have Fall of Lumen. The Keepers are back to overthrow Lumen, a deck building and area movement tabletop game set in the lands of Legends of Void. This is an indie company, Toyed Games. They are doing things right. One of you guys reached out to me and kind of commented like, hey, these guys like delivered their last game and now they're doing this one and it's a success, but they're super indie. Maybe you can give them a shout out. Well, here it is. 436 backers. That's a good solid count, and I'm glad to see that. And hopefully that keeps raising towards maybe the 1,000 mark. I think that's a solid. If you got 1,000 people in on your product, I think that's awesome. 23,000 raised, so it is funded, and so now they'll start working on stretch goals, stuff like that. I'm a huge fan of deck building and card games with pretty art, and this has both, so that's kind of cool. I need to look more into the gameplay here because it looks very symbol heavy. So if you don't like the symbology, as you can see, there's a lot of symbols. There's that tableau building kind of stuff as well. So yeah, we'll see. It'd be kind of interesting what that is. I need to dig into that a lot more though to really know if it's something for me or not. Versus I tend to like just words as opposed to symbols. But The Witcher, I was able to understand the symbols. It was the last page, super easy to do. Maybe this one's kind of similar. There's a lot of tokens and stuff though too. Like a lot of stuff. Right, this is not just a card game, as you can tell. There's a lot more to it. And yeah, you don't necessarily need that. That is 4 copies of for each faction, 209. That's a big one. Really, this is, 59. That's really what you're looking at there. But you can, of course, get more. As you can see, there's 6 backers of that. But the vast majority of people back into 59. So again, that's about 64 USD. Not bad. I'm digging these cheaper prices. I really am. This is kind of nice. And again, rule book right there. TTS demo right there. Here's a whole bunch of videos explaining it right here. I do appreciate that. And I'll definitely be looking more into it. But yeah, feel free to check it out. Again, I love this. Our approach to Crownfall. Only 1 edition, a pre-stretched campaign, no early bird. Like, they seem to be running a really straight ship. And I really appreciate it. So Toyed Games, maybe somebody to look at. Even if not for this pledge, just in the future. Okay, next up, this is going to be huge, of course. This is the next game from Orange Nebula. This is called Spiritfire. Follow the campaign and get a free neoprene underlay. Again, this is actually something that's pretty cheap for them to do. It's not too bad. One of the worst parts about a neoprene mat is actually shipping it, not the cost of the neoprene mat. It costs a bit, but it's not like a crazy expense necessarily. And you'll give it to you as long as you give them a name and email address. Now, this is kind of like this is golden for companies because they can contact you for a lot more than just Spiritfire. So know that going in. I don't want you guys to necessarily feel like you're getting spammed. I don't want to ever push you towards that. Of course, this is linked down below. But just know that unlike a Kickstarter where you have a sign-up page and you are only notified of the launch of that campaign, they will have your email. And so you'll get a 48-hour reminder. You'll get advertising for Spiritfire. You'll probably hear about their next game and so on and so forth. You're now part of essentially their newsletter or their slew of people that they can then contact, which is great for them. And if you like Orange Nebula games, that's something you should definitely take a look at. But of course, there's a privacy policy if you want to read that. But just know that that's why they have a custom page for your name and email address, because then you gave them your email address. You didn't just click for Kickstarter to remind you. You told them to remind you, and they will remind you, I'm sure. Okay, so anyway, there's a trailer here. You can go and watch that. It's also pretty nice. I love, again, the information here and just kind of the dive into it. I'm going to be covering this probably more when they actually have a page up. So for now, if you want to sign up for it, if this looks kind of interesting to you, again, there's a lot going on by the seams of it. Feel free to check it out. Next up, we have Secrets of the Lost Tomb Epic Remastered Edition 10th year anniversary. Wins the longest title that I had to say in this video, and it launches again in like 11 hours. So all this link down below. I've covered this several times, so I'm not going to go over it too much. Just know that this is one of those where it's like, hey, this game's been out for a long time. There are a lot of expansions. We've boxed it all up, and now you get all this stuff. So as you can see, you get several different scenarios and a whole lot of different stuff here. I've never played the game before. Some of you guys said I should play it. Some of you said I shouldn't. So let me know what you think, of course. I love the theme. It's a very Indiana Jones-ish, if that makes sense. And again, there's a lot of expansion, over 13 boxes of gameplay product in this thing. So that's really cool to see. So if this was something you loved, if you're one of the 8,000 plus people that are already following it, obviously you did, and you might be interested to know that you can, of course, get a free gift, the secret expansion. That's where you get these 4 scenarios here that kind of they were showing off. So that's pretty cool. Invincible, if you like Invincible, the series, whether the TV show or the comic series by Robert Kirkman, then this is obviously something that might be of interest to you. It's coming out February 2024. You play as astronauts who are trying to escape Mars without bringing home a sequid parasite. Essentially, this parasite latches onto you, and if you go back home with it, it then infects and everybody dies and stuff. So as a group, so co-op sort of, players will have to tackle various obstacles and will experience personal setbacks if they contribute to the toppling of those obstacles by playing cards to use their special abilities. Loyalties may change from round to round as players become infected or are cured of the sequid threat. So, you might be infected and everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's no good, and then suddenly you're like, hey, you guys cured me, I'm cured, I'm all better now, but now Bob is infected. And so you're kind of going on around that. It retails for about $25. It's a little kind of short box game, 4 challenge boards. You get like 21 tokens, 90 resource cards, 11 challenge cards. So it plays 20, 45 minutes. It's a light game. It's a small game. It's a filler game. But if you like the IP, it can be a lot of fun too. There you can see one of the sequids there, right? So this is kind of an example of how you would play, what you would have, your deck here and stuff like that. And then these are like maybe some of your cards. So Master Manipulator or like Super Intelligence, stuff like that, depending on your character that you're playing. So very cool to see. Next up, we have Wondrous Creatures. This one was linked in my Patreon, my Discord at one point. It's a worker placement game featuring fantastic creatures, magnetic meeples, and wondrous combos. The magnetic meeples is kind of cool. Essentially, you get to like ride these like dinosaurs and stuff like that. But I don't know about you guys, but this dude right here looks like it's just like a naked dude riding a Triceratops or something, which almost makes me more interested in the game. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, 5,000 people are interested in this. I don't know how the worker placement mechanism is innovative. I know it's been done a whole lot, so we'll see. As long as it's well played or well made, I think people are going to be happy with it, even if it's not super like mind-blowingly innovative. But we'll check. Horizon Forbidden West Seeds of Rebellion by Steamforged Games. This is the second one that they're doing, and my understanding is this seems like it should have been the first one, my opinion. Just because I feel like this really honors the actual IP. This is like story-based, 1 to 4 player cooperative board game, and it's very much inspired by the game. The first one, it was more like... So Horizon Zero Dawn is a video game, and it's an open world video game. So there's a lot of great story kind of content that you run through in the main campaign and stuff like that. And there was a lot of like, typical open world activities, challenges and stuff like that, random dino hunting and whatnot. And the first one to me felt a little bit more like that. It was just focused on more of the like, here's the world and here's all that extra junk you can do. This one it sounds like much more focused on the actual story and stuff like that. And I think that's great. I think that's awesome. Plus it does have some really cool minis. Now the last game was like this tall, like boxes. It was like a ton of stuff, a lot of minis and whatnot. How much more can they add to that? How much more do people need? I don't know, but 7,580 people are certainly interested. And I'm interested too. Yeah, we'll take a look at that together. Conan. Red Nails expansion and versus mode, a different versus mode than the Batman one. This one, I guess, is a little bit more streamlined and stuff like that. So if you're interested in more Conan, I always am. It's my wife's favorite board game, and we play it quite often. We actually just played it again recently. Again, I had to pack up the game I had because we were playing Conan and I was all for it. Had a blast. It was really good. It came very close, down to the wire. The last token I had to get, and it was either 1 or a 2. It was a 1, so I lost. If it had a 2, I had 1. It was that close. It was a good game. Good game. But she won and fair and square, and I think that's awesome. Super excited to see the Red Nails expansion. Now, one thing to note, Monolith has changed their crowdfunding strategy a little bit. So before they did the typical like launch on Kickstarter and develop the game and delay and do all that other crap that, was prevalent across Kickstarter, they are not doing that anymore. They're not going to Kickstarter until it's pretty much ready to go, right? So the Ragnarok, Mythic Battles Ragnarok was their last campaign to do that. So no more of that. It's now going to be a lot quicker to production. The Batman Gotham City Chronicles Season 3 was also in that bucket, right? But those, I think, Season 3 is now, I think, on the water, actually. And like Ragnarok is on the water, and Mythic Battle, Batman is then coming into production, and then they're going to launch this. And this is supposedly already kind of ready to go. So that's very good to see. I'm glad to see them being smarter about it. I think that's a good call. All right, guys, look, everything's linked down below, of course. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you out. I know I went pretty deep on a lot of these. I know that makes the video longer. Let me know your feedback on that. Would you like me to go lighter on the details and a little bit more quick? Or would you like me to kind of spend the time and talk about these things? I try to be as helpful as I can, but I have to balance the information load that I give to you guys, of course, as well. You can only soak in so much, of course, even from just one video. So let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. All right, have a great one. Take care, guys. Bye.